Do you agree or disagree with the accusations that Israel may have committed war crimes?
Of course, there were war crimes. You cannot have a war without war crimes.
There is no Palestinian people, there never was. There is no Palestinian state, there never was.
50% of the people who live, after we deported many of them, are Palestinians. They don't deserve rights. What do you want to do with them? And you don't give answer to that. And Netanyahu doesn't give answer to that. This is the reason to the atrocities.
In your opinion, are we talking about apartheid? Is Israel apartheid state?
In my opinion, it's occupation. But if it is not occupation, it is apartheid. For sure, it's not democracy. That more than 50% of the people cannot vote, cannot have the right to travel to pray in the mosque in Jerusalem.
Don't you prefer that it's better that their mothers cry at the funerals of their sons than the mothers of our IDF soldiers cry at the funerals of their sons?
I see that the more mothers cry in their side, more mothers cry in my side. When you don't have peace, war is only a matter of time.
Mossi Raz is an Israeli politician and activist. He served in the IDF's paratroopers brigade. From 1994 to 2000, Mossi Raz served as Secretary General of Peace Now, advocating for a two-state solution. Mossi entered politics in 1999 and was elected to the Knesset. He served several non-consecutive terms up until 2022, when he lost his seat in that election. Since that time, Mossi has continued to stay active in media, peace, activism, and public debate. In 2025, he warned that Israel is heading towards a very deep constitutional crisis and possible collapse of government if it continues attempts to override the courts. We certainly have been living on the edge far too long. Israelis want peace and have valid concerns about a government that may be limiting democracy and civil liberties. My name is Israel Ellis, and this is The Unfiltered View, a companion to The Wake Up Call. This is where truth breaks through the noise. The currency of this channel exists through your appreciation for this podcast. Please don't be shy. Share this podcast, like it, and subscribe on my YouTube channel, and feel free to comment. Please check us out at israelellis.com and on Substack. Mossi Raz, welcome to The Unfiltered View.
Thank you. It was so impressive that I think everything I can say now is only going to spoil.
We're excited to get to know you. So let's just dive into things. We know a little bit about you. We talked about you, and certainly you have tremendous credibility out there, sort of on the street, if you will. You're a politician, you're an advocate, you're a writer, you're an intellectual. You are definitely involved in the political scene. The Israeli political landscape is no walk in the park. Some would say that we have come to a place of perhaps total dysfunction. Others may claim that Israel is what a true democracy is really about. What do you think?
If you talk about the political system, Israel is not far from true democracy. The question is, what is democracy? But in the meaning that in most of the cases, if majority vote for somebody, he would be the prime minister. But it's not always the same in UK or US or many other places. Not always even here, because we have a threshold of 3.25%. So now we are not that close to democracy like we were in the past. But of course, democracy is not only the democracy, the political system. Democracy is way more than that. Democracy is freedom, is civil rights, is human rights. We have two main problems with that weaken our democracy. The first one is related to the religion. The state is looking at the people as people who are part of a religion, not necessarily Jewish, and they have to go to make their marriage under this religion system and everything under this system. This is problematic, of course. But second, and way more important, Israel is ruling or I would say that Israel is ruling the Palestinian people. And actually we divided them to, say, 5 groups. The first one live in Israel since the establishment in 1948. Officially, they have the same rights like Jewish citizens. Of course, practically not. But this is like, I would say, many other weak democracies that we see everywhere. The second group is in Jerusalem, that Israel annexed in 1967, East Jerusalem. And those people, say 400,000 people, are residents of Israel, but they are not citizens. So they live in the capital of Israel. They were born there. Their parents were born there, but they are not citizens. They are not migrants. They were born there. They cannot vote. They cannot be part of the system. So is that democratic? I am not that sure. The third group live in the West Bank. While an Israeli who lives in the West Bank with violation of the international law is still an Israeli, and he or she has the rights to vote and the right to be, we have in the Supreme Court 2 Israelis who live in settlements, we have in the government Israelis who live in the settlements, we have in the Knesset and so on. Palestinians who live side by side with them have no rights, not even the right to go into Israel. Of course, not voting, not social security, and so on. And of course, the fourth group live in Gaza. We saw what happened there. And the fifth one is abroad, was run away or deported or whatever. So is that democracy? I'm not sure. In some aspects, it is democracy. But we had a member of Knesset, Ahmed Tibi, said that Israel is democratic to the Jewish citizens and Jewish to the Arabs. So maybe this is the combination that we see here.
There's a lot that you've just sort of introduced, and it would take several podcasts to unwrap that and to pull back and uncover each one. You've brought up a very good point. We've asked the question of what kind of democracy Israel is. And you said, well, it really depends who you're talking about. Are you talking about a democracy in terms of the Jewish people within Israel who enjoy all the rights of what a democracy, a political system should provide them? Or are we talking about these Palestinians who are sort of caught in the middle and are divided in those 5 categories? And thank you very much. That was a good education. When you've got political rallies that can happen and civil disobedience in this respect that can happen to speak out against the government, I feel that that is the foundation of a democracy. Mossi Raz, when you can stand up and speak on behalf of Palestinians or on behalf of, what you feel from your political spectrum, I think that's a democracy. When people can speak without being silenced, that's a democracy. I think we can all agree that Israel is the best version of a democracy in the Middle East region.
The freedom of speech is one of the foundations of democracy. Freedom of speech is pretty high in Israel.
In Israel, the political proportional representation does not have politicians that are representing a local geographic area. The political challenge of proportional representation is that it has been accused of ceding power to the minority of voters rather than the majority, because the smaller parties tend to hold power known as the kingmakers to form the government. Mossi Raz, do you think this is an issue? Do you think that Israel needs total and complete political reform?
I think in every political system, in every voting system, there are good and bad things. And yes, you're absolutely right about the weaknesses of our political systems. But there are a lot of things that I think that I support, that I think that we should more or less go on with this political system.
I think it's safe to say that there is really a no perfect system of democracy.
Of course.
In my book, The Wake Up Call, I actually talk about the fact that I believe that political reform is necessary in Israel, that we need extensive political reform. And the reason that I'm an advocate of political reform is because of what I would call the disunity of Israel. I feel that much of Israel's policies and politics were put into a position because there are kingmakers inside of governments where we give people far too much power that really don't represent the majority of Israelis. The system, the way it's designed, is that the smaller political parties are the kingmakers with regards to forming the government. And then because we have so many parties and we're always under a coalition, we're never under a true majority, which means that we're always pandering to shall we say, more minority voices. But at the same time, when you have a system where the smallest of political parties are contributing to the largest of political issues, I think we have a problem there.
We tried that. Many people have said in the past what you've just said. And of course, I understand why you say that. And then we changed the system in the 90s, and we decided to vote for the prime ministership directly. And then we expected to have the results that you said, that the extreme powers will be stopped, or the candidates will think about the center. The opposite has happened. Candidates understood, because there is no real center here. There are a lot of differences between the groups. It's not right and left. There are religious and not religious, ultra-religious and national religious, Jews and Arabs. So I don't think that we understood very, very quickly, yes, after 3 elections, that we had to go back, that this when you have two direct elections for prime ministership, we had only 2 candidates. Yes, it was very polarizing for this one or for that one. So the opposite than what we thought. Not me personally, but the people who changed the system. And then we went back to the old, a little bit better system with all the problems that we know. Now, as you said, there is no best system. And probably systems are there is a system that is better for Israel, a system that is better to UK, and that system that is better to US or whatever. I think under those circumstances, this is the best system for us. And even if not, we cannot really change, because we don't have, when you go to that, this is when the nation is born, when the state is born, when you have people who can agree upon. If we go now and we say, for example, the system in US is the best. We want to have the same. We want to have 50 states here, yes, or 10 states or whatever, with districts or whatever. then we are going to fight about the districts and about the states and about how many and how to count. And it's a real risk to the end of democracy, not because the system in US is less democratic than in Israel, because when you translate it with no confidence here in Israel, 50% of the people have zero confidence in Netanyahu. The other 50% have zero confidence in the opposition. Under that circumstances, you cannot change the system.
Mossi, I appreciate what you're saying, because right now, currently, you have really no voice in the Knesset. And so I would expect someone who doesn't have a voice to say, no, we need changes so I can get my voice back. But you're actually being very pragmatic in the sense that you know that it's going to be too difficult and we have what we have and we're going to work with it. And yes, there are negatives, but there are also positives to it. Whereas in American, you might have this complete 50-50 polarization, but in Israel, there's lots of room for middle ground in the current situation. So thank you very much. This episode of this Unfiltered View is really just past the second anniversary of the horrific events of October 7th. I'd like to ask you, Mossi Raz, where do you think as a nation we have come together, and where do you think we are most divided?
Who is we?
Well, we as that's a very good question, but it's interesting.
The Jewish nation, the Israeli citizens.
Thank you. Thank you. I think most importantly is I think that we're talking about citizens of Israel.
I have my views. I believe in equality, and I believe in peace and in the end of occupation. Unfortunately, this is not the question. I wanted this question to divide Israel, but this is not the question to divide Israel. I think that we can see in Israel in the last year two groups. One of them, led by Prime Minister Netanyahu, is in many things similar to the Republican Party in US, with differences. They here in Israel, this camp, this 50%, are very religious. Of course, there are evangelists and other religious who support Republican and Jewish even, but here are very religious, and they say they support this connection between church and state, or Judaism as a religion and the state, and they are very hawkish vis-a-vis the Palestinians. And this is very important. They are very conservative in social questions, maybe a little bit less conservative than the Republican Party, but it's, in a way, they look at the trial of Netanyahu, the fact that I would say the difference is that 50% of the Israelis would say Netanyahu is corrupt, Netanyahu should go to jail, Netanyahu failed in October 7 and this 50% say Netanyahu never failed.
What do you think?
Netanyahu, and there is no
what is your opinion? Did Netanyahu fail here?
Of course.
Is he corrupt?
Yes, he is corrupt. Yes, he failed. All the October 7 is the failure of the right wing. But for years we said, end occupation, have peace agreement, have negotiations, when you don't have peace, war is only a matter of time. And they said, no, you're just shouting, you're just saying we can manage the conflict. Nothing is going to happen to us. We frightened the Hamas in 2021 that they will never act, or not in the 15 coming years. All that collapsed.
You're saying that the Netanyahu issue, which is the political issue, which is the main divisive issue in Israel, this issue existed prior to October 7th.
Yes,
and it seems 2 years later that this dividing issue is the same disunity or divisive issue that is affecting Israel today. Nothing really has changed. Has there been a change in terms of what is dividing Israel? Do you think there has been a significant shift in how Israel's divided, or do you think Israel has come closer together as a result of since October 7th?
Israel came closer together by the meaning that people volunteered to help the army, to help the people who were evacuated from their homes, to help the families of the hostages. In this meaning, Israel became more together. But political-wise, we are still in the same division. You saw that yesterday night in the hostages square when Witkoff and Kushner and Ivanka Trump came to speak. And in the minute that Mr. Witkoff mentioned the name Netanyahu, hundreds of thousands of people shouted "boo." And for 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, that would be the 50%.
Of course.
You know, that would be representative of the 50% that don't support him, but the 50% that do support Netanyahu, and there is a significant support base for Netanyahu, are what we would call the silent majority. The silent majority are people that don't speak up because they're afraid maybe perhaps of getting canceled. And that they're going to keep quiet about how they feel. But when it comes to the ballot box, that's when their voice is heard. I guess, this is the product or byproduct of a democracy. I have to tell you personally, when I hear a prime minister of Israel being vilified and booed, I think that's disrespectful. And I don't think it's disrespectful to the man. I will agree with you, by the way, on many points about Netanyahu. I talk about in my book, The Wake Up Call, that we should have terms for the prime minister, that we shouldn't have this ability. I do believe in terms. I think people get very comfortable in office, and human nature is that power will corrupt us. It's the office of the prime ministership of Israel that I believe is at stake. And it's the office of the prime minister that needs to be respected. Perhaps not the prime minister himself, but the office needs to be respected. Would you agree with that?
I would agree about the office, but the people feel that the prime minister of Israel, Netanyahu, put them in the last 2 years. Or maybe even more than that. How come that Mr. Witkoff visited in the square 3 times? He doesn't live here, while Netanyahu never came. While any of his supporters, not even one minister, one member of Knesset who support them, never came.
People are just exhausted about the last 2 years. Do you think, in this new phase, do you think that Netanyahu will be ousted from power, or that he will gracefully resign, or that he will be forced from power? What do you think is going to happen with the Netanyahu government the day after this peace agreement is signed?
First, we are still, I know President Trump calls it a peace agreement. I wish it was. It's not peace agreement. Politically, for a while, Netanyahu is going to be stronger. And Netanyahu is a very clever political player. I am not sure what he is going to do. He is going to do what is good for Netanyahu. There is no way no political way that I can see to force him to leave. He is going to resign only if he thinks, elections are on October 26. He is going to resign and call for earlier elections if he thinks that in 3 months he would get better results than in October. And Netanyahu is a very good player to understand if it's going to happen. My guess is that elections would be on time. It's only a guess. First time, by the way, since 1988. Elections on time, meaning October 27, 2026. But it might be a few months earlier. And then we see the division in Israel, 50% more or less who support the opposition, or probably more than 50% who support the opposition, about 50% or a little bit less who support Netanyahu's government. But we have the division in the opposition. That right-wing parties are not willing to cooperate with Arab parties. So not necessarily 51% for the opposition means Netanyahu is not the prime minister anymore. So it's very hard to know. It depends in many things. It depends in their cooperation in the opposition with the Arab parties. And so this is the second question. And the third question, maybe first time, since many Israelis left under those 3 years of Netanyahu and 4 years until the elections, it's a question how many of them are going to come back to vote. Because my guess that most of them are among the opposers for Netanyahu. So if none of them is coming, probably Netanyahu wins. If hundreds of thousands or at least tens of thousands comes, then Netanyahu is in a danger.
But it is time, perhaps, to get some fresh eyes and fresh blood in the game. Who do you think is his successor? Who is his likely successor?
Very good question. The one with the most chances is probably Naftali Bennett, who was the prime minister. But here I have to ask, if Netanyahu's bloc have 50%, then Netanyahu is the prime minister. If they have a little bit less, one possibility is that Netanyahu will do it together with Bennett. Bennett is the chairperson of the party, and I'm sure he's going to make it in the way that he can take the decisions and the followers will go with him.
Do you think that Bennett is the right person for the job, though? I mean, do you think he's the right person for the job? Do you think it's his time right now?
No, I don't think he's the right person. I think he's better than Netanyahu. I think he has more chances than anybody else. If you tell me Netanyahu is not the prime minister after the elections. For 40 or 50%,
Naftali Bennett, he has shown his courage and he has shown his commitment to inclusivity.
That's right.
He definitely committed what some would say political suicide when he turned around and he partnered for the first time ever with with an Arab party to form the government. And but I have to say that I admired him. I admired the fact that he recognized pragmatically that we have to do something different. We cannot continue to keep on doing the same old thing over and over again, and that it's insanity. And we had to do something different. I think that what Bennett did is he got off of that circle and he tried something different. And then, of course, events took place that ended up seeing him ousted. I feel that he might be best positioned to replace Netanyahu because we just cannot afford to continue with the same old.
Again, I think he's better than Netanyahu, and yes, I really appreciate what he has done. I can find better prime ministers.
Mossi, are you voting? Are you voting for Bennett?
No, of course not.
Are you gonna?
No.
Will you negotiate with Bennett? Would you sit down with Naftali Bennett to
Probably the answer is yes. I supported the previous government. I think you mentioned that he was brave enough to cooperate with the Arab Party. And I think, as a recommendation to my party, the Democrats, I'm not saying that I can do that alone, I would not do that alone, that should be a condition to new coalition that is different, at least with one Arab party, not only Jewish coalition. Because if so, I'm not saying that it's like Netanyahu. No, it's still better than Netanyahu. But I want to see a real change, not a small change.
I think we need some real change. I think we got to shake the tree. There's no question about it that we cannot ignore the fact that October 7th was a colossal failure of Israeli military, of our political leadership. I think that we need accountability for October 7th as well. And that's a long road ahead. And we need a strong political leader who's going to give Israel what they need, who's going to give the people of Israel, not as the people, but the Jewish people around the world. We need to restore confidence. Mossi, there are accusations of Israel regarding the handling of the war on Hamas. And I'd like to ask you for your reaction to some of these claims that are being made on mass media. Is Israel committing genocide?
Genocide is legal term that I am not sure that I know very well. I believe the answer is no. Israel is not committed genocide, but the fact that this question is asked, the fact that so many kids and women and people who, as I think Mr. Kushner said yesterday, the only problem with them was that they were born in Gaza, were killed.
But we don't really know what the numbers are. We really don't know who is an innocent.
I'm not saying that everybody was innocent. No. But of course, tens of thousands were innocents. Even Prime Minister Netanyahu said that. I think this is very bad. This is bad for the Jewish state, and this is bad for the Jewish nation.
But where does the blame lie? Does the blame lie on Israel, or does the blame lie on Hamas?
The blame is on Israel and on Hamas, but I cannot compare Hamas to Israel. Hamas is terror organization, which is not recognized by the world, which is defined as terror organization everywhere in the world. If one say, I am the head of Hamas, he cannot land in America. He cannot land in Europe. Israel is in different situation. I want the Prime Minister of Israel to be welcome everywhere in the world. I want the Israeli citizens to be welcome everywhere in the world.
Do you agree or disagree with the accusations that Israel may have committed war crimes?
There is no war without war crimes. And of course, there are war crimes. The only question is, how do you deal with these war crimes? And who gave the order? There are war crimes that are not have no relations to the war in Gaza. Settlement activity is war crime. But if we talk about the situation in Gaza, of course, there were war crimes. You cannot have a war without war crimes.
I asked you the question, if you believe that Israel committed war crimes, you came back and very articulately said there is no war without war crimes, which I think is a very profound statement. War itself is a crime against humanity. And it's unfortunate for whatever the reasons are that war happens. But the fact is that, the mass media, there's a lot of anti-Semitism out there. And there's the scapegoating of the Jew. And whether or not Israel committed war crimes is really not the concern of the people who make these claims, but it's an opportunity, rather, to pursue their own anti-Semitic ends.
You cannot say that one committed war crime only because he's a soldier. This is not a war crime to be a soldier. It is not a war crime to fight.
What do you feel about the statement that Israel is the most moral and just army in the world?
How can I compare between an army who fights and kill terrorists and citizens to an army who doesn't have any war?
We know that Israel has an independent commission that investigates war crimes internally, and that Israel does quite a bit to warn citizens and to limit collateral damage. But we have to agree that Israel is in an impossible situation when they're dealing with the lovers of death. And
we are in an impossible situation, but you say that we have this unit to inquire. I haven't seen this unit, and I don't know cases in the last years. Maybe it's me. I'm not saying that you, but the last important case that I remember, one of the times that I came to the occupied territory, is the commander in the place told me, today we killed a wanted person and an innocent person. And I asked him, how come? I have heard in the news, in my way here, that 2 wanted persons were killed. And they told me, what do you want us to say, that we killed innocent person?
You think they're innocent about what they were doing there?
I'm saying that the person who killed her, the soldier who killed her, probably is not innocent, but we have to check. I'm not saying that I don't accuse it. What I'm saying, there was no real inquiry. So this brought us to the place that soldiers felt that they can shoot.
There is no question about it that what is going on, Israel has been put into an impossible situation, and that it's a very highly complex situation that is on the ground in Gaza. You talk about the occupied territories that are referred to now officially as Judea and Samaria. We don't talk in terms of occupation. I personally find that term offensive, and I find that it is untrue. You believe in a two-state solution, which I think is problematic today. In your view, and this is my question for you, how can a country pursue reconciliation with a neighbor, if you want to call them a neighbor, that has to date demonstrated only hostility and blatant promise to kill and annihilate Jews and Israelis? Palestinian Authority that has a pay-for-slay policy and refuses to recognize Israel's right to exist and Israel's right to defend itself. How do we pursue a two-state solution under those conditions?
This is the same question Palestinians ask me. How can we have peace with Israel who doesn't recognize the Palestinian people as a nation, who took all the land?
But they aren't a nation.
Took all the land.
There never was
67,000 people in the last 2 years, most of them innocent. 2,000 kids were born after October 7, while we Palestinians supported the Arab League Peace Initiative that, nobody in Israel has heard about this initiative. So it's not a real democracy. In a democracy, people would have heard about this initiative, but that we Palestinians support the Arab League Initiative, who recognize 2 states, meaning recognize Israel in 78% of the land, while you, Israel, killed 67,000 people in the last 2 years and don't recognize us. So I want to reconcile. I want to answer to them. I can answer to you.
Mossi, I don't have a problem with what people identify. If you want to identify as a him, her, if you want to identify as a they, them, that's your business. You want to identify as a Palestinian, great. Identify as a Palestinian. But there is no Palestinian people. There never was. There is no Palestinian state. There never was. They're not in a position to demand Israel to recognize. And I'm talking about a government that is the legitimate sovereign government of the state of Israel in that region. I think the priority must be total recognition of the sovereign state of Israel, this is a sovereign nation, and that this said sovereign nation has the right to defend itself. And as long as they don't recognize Israel, as long as the people who identify as Palestinians do not recognize Israel, and as long as these people have a pay-for-slay policy where they actually give, and I don't know how you can tolerate this, Mossi, being in Israel, this must be a very difficult conundrum for you. But the fact that the Palestinian Authority still today will provide a lifetime pension for anyone who commits an act of terror resulting in the attempted murder or the murder of a Jewish person, to me, is the most insane and bizarre thing that any country should have to deal with.
We made the Europeans define anti-Semitism and say a person who doesn't recognize the right of the Jewish people to self-definition as anti-Semitism. So as a consequence of us, and I support that, as a consequence of us, I feel that we have to recognize every nation. But okay, you don't have to recognize the Palestinians as a nation. This is very offensive. Okay, don't recognize. What do you want to do with the fact that here, 50% of the people who live, after we deported many of them, are Palestinians? Don't they deserve rights? Okay, you say they are not Palestinians, they are whatever, they are Arabs or whatever they are. They don't deserve rights. What do you want to do with it? You have to give an answer to that. You have to give, and you don't give answer to that. And Netanyahu doesn't give answer to that. And this is the reason to the atrocities. This is the reason to that. I want to tell you about what you say. Judea and Samaria, of course, it's bullshit. I live in Judea. It's in Israel. It's not in the occupied territories. What is the definition of the Judea and Samaria? The lands that Israel occupied in 1967. It's not. It's the fact that people are using these terms. It's just because they don't understand the situation. But okay, let's say that this is Judea and Samaria. If it is not occupied territory, I ask the question: why a settler who lives in Hebron can be a minister in Israel, while his neighbor, who is not Jewish, who was born here, who was born there, the minister was not born there, cannot vote. He has no right to vote. He has no right to come to visit in Israel. You say it's Israel, but he doesn't have the right to visit in Israel. How come that one who lives in Israel doesn't have the right to visit in Israel? So to say that it is not occupied territories, excuse me, it's to bullshit me. It's to bullshit me. I know the facts. You can tell that to Israelis who don't know the facts, that this is the situation. It is not right to say that. It's very offensive to say that. And what do you tell to this Palestinian? What do you tell him? You live in Israel, but you don't have the right to enter Israel. You don't have the right to vote in Israel. So are we talking about what? Apartheid?
A fundamental principle of the Oslo Accords was the total recognition of Israel's right to exist. Is that correct?
Yes, and they have done that.
They did not do that. When did they do that?
And
when did Arafat do that?
You know, Israel, why 70% of the old people in Israel support in two states and only 25% among the young people? Because of the incitement in the Israeli schools. Incitement in Israeli schools. They teach them lies about the situation that I have heard. Those lies from you, you don't know that this is lies. You're not that familiar with the situation. You didn't want to lie, but you said those lies. And this is why President Trump now in his plane said that we have to check both curriculum. By the way, in Oslo, there was a decision about a committee to check the education in both Israel and Palestinian Authority. Palestinian Authority said again and again, we want to meet. And Israel refused again and again. Why? Because of the incitement in the Israeli schools.
33 years later, the curriculum of Palestinian schools that are funded by United Nations organizations and foreign funds, 33 years later, still talk about the destruction of Israel, still do not recognize the Israeli state, and the Palestinian Authority still endorses a pay-for-slay policy that Israel tax dollars, through the collection of VAT, is primarily funding, which is the most ridiculous thing because of the Oslo Accords. It's pretty messed up.
No, the tax is not paying. You know, I'm proud that I voted against the legislation to steal their money in the same amount that they give to the prisoners. And I remember very well, I had this disagreement with member of Knesset, the former head of Shabak, Dichter, sorry. I told him, you don't understand Palestine. If you do that, there will be more. He told me, no, you don't. Just a minute. He told me, no, you'll see that they are going to stop that. What happened? We saw increase in the terror a year after year, and then October 7th. So we tried what you say, and we failed, and many people were killed.
Do you believe that that the ideology, the fundamental ideology of jihadism is deception?
Is what?
Deception.
Sorry, what is deception?
Deception, let me put it another way. Deception is a fundamental foundation of jihadist ideology. Do you agree with that statement? Okay, so how do you negotiate with somebody where deception is ingrained in their ideology? How do you, as a politician, negotiate with your neighbor?
I think President Trump has done something very good that we should have done even 23 years ago. He involved all the Arab leaders, by the way, not only Arabs, but all the Arab leaders, or almost all the Arab leaders, in order to solve the problem between Israel and Hamas. And this is exactly what we should go on in this direction with the Arab League, to solve all the problems between Israel and all the Arabs. No, I don't think Abbas is jihadist. I don't think Sisi, the president of Egypt, is jihadist. I don't even think that Qatar are jihadist. And yes, I understand that they are jihadists, and I cannot talk to jihadists. This I understand.
Well, look at Mossi, I think that we can agree that we live in a very complicated world, and that it's even more so complicated by the fact that we have all of these questions of morality that inflict pain on us as Jewish people. Unfortunately, I don't think that our neighbors are thinking in the same moral terms that we are thinking. I respect that you have some real humanistic moral issues with war and with the way things are being conducted, and with the fact that there are people who are may be dismissed. So I think that's all the credit to you. However, I like to deal in truths. And the Unfiltered View, this podcast, was created in an effort to seek the truth and to put aside the bullshit. The fact is that what I find difficult, and we're going to end with this discussion, what I find difficult is I would say that Israel has the upper hand here. Israel is a legitimately recognized sovereign nation, and Israel is a more powerful and wealthier and militarily advanced nation. I would think that if people want to achieve peace, they should first bend their knee to Israel in the direction of Israel by recognizing Israel as a nation unequivocally, without conditions. And you talk about the Oslo Accords, and Abbas, the Palestinians have never recognized the Jewish state's right to exist as a Jewish state of Israel. They've recognized that. Did Egypt
recognize Israel as a Jewish state? The answer is no. By the way, Arafat recognized Israel as a Jewish state, but
he recognized Israel defined by 1967 borders.
Yes, as Jewish state.
But he never recognized Israel as a Jewish state.
Oh no, he did. I can even send you the film if you want. He did. But if you say that Fatah and PLO did not recognize your right, did Egypt recognize Israel as a Jewish state? Did the Emirates recognize Israel as a Jewish state? Do I prefer live on recognition? I prefer life, and I understand people prefer recognition and death. I prefer life. The Emirates, the Qatar, the Jordanians, Egypt, the Moroccans, none of them recognize Israel as a Jewish state. Why should I ask you from the Palestinians? But okay, I will be nice. It can be nice if they recognize, but if not, what then? I should fight for that. I should lose life for that recognition. I think the answer is no.
Mossi, there's an order of events that have to take place over here. And I think that, these Arab nations in Egypt, they're beyond Israel's borders. We're talking about people within Israel's borders here.
Or Israel's borders.
No, what you like to call the occupied territories, or try to say Samaria. The fact is that there's a big difference between the Palestinian Authority and between what's going on in Egypt or what's going on in Qatar and with these other countries. The fact remains is that if the Palestinian authorities were really acting in good faith, they would change their syllabus of hate in the curriculum that they educate their children with. Number one, they would abolish.
And if not, you prefer that I die and they die, but they should.
Mossi, let me ask you, Mossi, they should abolish the pay for slay policy. They should immediately recognize Israel's right to exist, and they should recognize Israel's a sovereign nation right to defend. It's an unfortunate reality, but the point is, if you're saying to me that in order to be good people here, humanitarian, we have to cede the right to exist, that the Israelis have to, how can you sacrifice yourself? How do you die on the altar so that these people are going to exist? I don't know how you reconcile with that.
I see that the more mothers cry in their side, more mothers cry in my side. This is what I see. Yeah, I know this stupid sentence that you mentioned. I know, just a minute. Can I say something?
They're giving out candy. They're not crying. They're giving out candies. They're celebrating the martyrdom of their children.
I saw that the more casualties they have, the more dead people they have, the more dead people I have. Before 67, we had small army. We had way more security. There were no, we call this terror activities, we call it in Hebrew, pigua. This word was not even existing in the Hebrew language before 67 because it was so rare. There were no missiles to Israel. And after 67, we saw missiles to Israel. We saw terror activities, kidnapping of people now, but planes earlier. War with Egypt, another war with Egypt and Syria, Intifada, war in Lebanon, October 7. All of that are consequences of the war in 1967. And one who doesn't want to see that, it's legitimate to be not to say, okay, but this is the fact. This is the fact. The fact is that the bigger was the land of Israel, the biggest were our casualties. When there were 6 years between 67 to 73 that we were largest than ever. But in these 6 years, 4,000 Israelis were killed. 4,000. And now in 2023, we were not larger than ever, but we were pretty larger than before 67, and another 2,000 were killed. And it did not happen before. So I cannot, I see what you do, you ignore the reality. So you see this and you say, okay, wow, you understand that because you look at that in unsymmetric way.
Have you identified your real estate, your vacation home yet in Gaza? Are you, if you love them, why don't you move with them and be amongst them?
No, I the one who said, first I love everybody. And I have Palestinian friends, but I was the one to say, I don't want this occupation anymore. I want them to rule themselves. But you were the one to say there is not occupied territory. So please answer to me, this neighbor of Ben Gvir, he is his neighbor, he lives 100 meters from him. You say this is Israel. Why doesn't he have the right to go into Israel? Go into Israel. You have the right. Everybody in the world have this, or not almost everybody in the world has this right. But you say he live in Israel. He doesn't have this right. Why doesn't he have the right to vote? This is the state that we want to have. No, this is anti-Zionism, and I tell you why. What is Zionism? Zionism is implementing the right of the Jewish nation for self-determination according to the international law. This is not me. This is the first Zionist Congress in 1897. And Herzl never, ever could agree to this situation. That say, you say this is Israel. And if you say this is Israel, the answer is, so those people who say Israel is a apartheid state are right. You say it by yourself. That those people they live in Israel, but they have no rights.
I think we can agree that the situation is highly complicated, but I feel that Israel has the right to demand that it's be recognized, that terrorism be stopped and disarmed, and that it should be able to live in peace. And I believe that if you want to negotiate with your neighbors and you want better concessions, then maybe as a good first step, you should drop the jihadist ideology from your curriculum. You should recognize Israel, and you should prosecute anyone who commits acts of terror.
I agree with you. If not, you want me to die. No, thank you. I don't want to die.
Mossi, what are your plans politically? Are you planning on running in the next election?
Yes.
Okay, and for the same party, or you're forming?
We had the merge between Meretz and Labour to the Democratic Party. Yes, the Democrats.
I look forward to your partnership with Naftali Bennett. I look forward to you having an influence. And I got to tell you something. In all fairness, Mossi, I appreciate the fact that we have a very healthy discussion over here today.
Yeah,
it's okay to it's okay to have difference of opinions. And what's really important. What's really important,
very born without this difference of opinions.
And what's really important, I think, is that the things that you feel, that they are married with the other side of the spectrum as well. And that is true democracy. That is true politics. That is the truth of Israel. That is why Israel is one of the greatest democracies and the greatest countries in the world, I think, because we can have all these debates and that we could blend our policies. And hopefully, I wish for the day that the left and the right, that all these political spectrums and everything in between can have the best of their policies recognized. And that is what makes up the principles of Israel. Mossi, we've got a couple of moments here. I'm just finishing off the interview with you. If you had an opportunity to say something to the world today, what would your message be?
I want to tell the world, don't be pro-Israel, don't be pro-Palestine. Be pro-peace, be pro-human rights, be pro-Israel and pro-Palestine in the same way. And if you do that, you help us to solve our problems because we want to live here. And please unite with the Arab League and with President Trump to implement the plan that Trump actually, I think he more or less adopted the Egyptian plan that was adopted by the Arab League, but let President Trump lead until the 19th place to talk about a way to Palestinian state. I think this is what we should do. And thank you very much. It was very, very important.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming on board. This is the Unfiltered View. We are looking for truth. We are looking for differences of opinion. We're looking for the wide spectrum to understand how to move forward in a complex and sometimes difficult world, both politically, ideologically, religiously, secular, all the different isms out there. Today we have Mossi Raz. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining the Unfiltered View. Have an amazing day and a wonderful future of peace, love, happiness, coexistence, all the good things that Mossi had mentioned. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Israel Ellis, and this is the Unfiltered View, a companion to the wake-up call. This is where truth breaks through the noise. The currency of this channel exists through your appreciation for this podcast. Please don't be shy. Share this podcast, like it, and subscribe on my YouTube channel, and feel free to comment. Please check us out on IsraelEllis.com and on Substack. Thank you for tuning in when you had the choice to tune out.